A furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. 3 men bound and thrown into the flames. And yet no screams, no burns, no death. Instead, a king watches in disbelief as 4 figures, not 3, walk calmly in the heart of the fire. Is it a myth? A miracle? Or a mystery science has yet to decode? The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego isn't just one of survival. It's a direct confrontation between faith and fire, between divine intervention and natural law. What happened in that Babylonian furnace nearly 2,600 years ago has left scholars, scientists, and theologians locked in centuries of debate. Was it a symbolic tale or a supernatural event that broke the very rules of physics? This isn't merely a religious story. It's a timeless enigma that forces us to question the boundaries of reality, the limits of human comprehension, and the moments when logic fails and something other steps in. Today, we dive deep into the heart of the flames, not just to revisit an ancient miracle, but to explore how far science can go before it, too, is consumed by the mystery. Long before the story of the furnace began, a kingdom rose from the dust with unmatched power. Babylon, a city of towering walls, golden idols, and complex astronomy, stood as the pride of Mesopotamia. Under King Nebuchadnezzar II, it wasn't merely a political superpower. It was a symbol of dominance over all thought, culture, and even gods. Into this empire came exiles, captured Jewish youths from Jerusalem, trained in the Babylonian way, but rooted in a belief system that refused to bow to human thrones. Among them were 3 men whose Hebrew names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. But in Babylon, they were renamed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When the king built a statue of gold 90 feet tall and demanded all bow before it under the sound of every instrument in the land, it wasn't just about worship, it was about loyalty. To refuse was treason, death. But the 3 men refused. Not arrogantly, but unshaken. "We do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter," they told the king. "The God we serve is able to deliver us from it. But even if he does not, we will not serve your gods." It was an answer that echoed like thunder across the court. The king's face twisted with rage. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. Even the soldiers who carried the men to the flames died instantly from the heat. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were bound, fully clothed, and cast into the blaze. And then, something unimaginable happened. Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he asked. "But I see 4 men walking in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." The scene defied everything. The flames consumed nothing. The ropes were gone, but the clothes remained. The fire killed the executioners, but not the condemned. Was it a story meant to inspire? A vision? Or an event that truly happened in defiance of the very laws of nature? The Babylonians knew fire. They used it to burn bricks, smelt metal, and execute traitors. They knew what it could do. And yet, these 3 men emerged untouched. No burns. Not even the smell of smoke. It wasn't just a miracle, it was a challenge. A declaration that there are forces in this world that stand above heat, science, and even kings. Forces that don't answer to earthly thrones. Forces that don't need to make sense to exist. The story of the fiery furnace didn't begin with a miracle. It began with a line that refused to be crossed. A boundary drawn not in sand, but in soul. A furnace prepared to consume, but that instead revealed something no one expected. The presence of something, or someone, greater. For centuries, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego has inspired awe, devotion, and, in many corners of the academic world, deep skepticism. Was this truly a divine miracle that defied the natural order? Or could there be scientific explanations buried beneath the poetry of ancient scripture? As the tale passed through generations, A new battlefield emerged not between gods and men, but between belief and reason. And science, ever curious, stepped into the furnace. Let's start with the obvious contradiction: the laws of thermodynamics. Fire, as we understand it, consumes. It transfers heat through conduction, convection, and radiation. At temperatures above 200 degrees Celsius, 392 degrees Fahrenheit, the human body begins to suffer irreversible damage. Internal organs shut down. Proteins break down. Skin chars. But the Babylonians heated the furnace 7 times hotter than usual. Though the Bible doesn't quantify the temperature, many scholars and physicists estimate it could have reached well above 800 degrees Celsius, 1,472 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to incinerate metal. And yet, 3 men stood within it and walked out. So how do scientists approach such a contradiction? One theory suggests the story is allegorical, a metaphor for spiritual resilience rather than physical survival. But that explanation quickly falls short for many scholars, especially those noting the extreme detail in the narrative. The furnace's intensity, the death of the guards, the appearance of a fourth figure, the absence of even a scent of smoke. If symbolic, why be so specific? Another idea posits a natural phenomenon, an optical illusion caused by intense heat waves or a localized air current. Some researchers have studied how air stratification within a large kill could, theoretically, create cooler pockets in which a person might survive briefly. These would be rare, unstable, and nearly impossible to navigate. Furthermore, even in the most sophisticated industrial furnaces today, no one has ever stood unharmed in open flame. The difference between being near a flame and inside it is vast. In this case, the 3 men were thrown into the core of it. Historians have also attempted to interpret the event through the lens of ancient exaggeration. Could the furnace have been symbolic of social or political pressure? Perhaps the fire was not literal but metaphorical, a trial by hostility, not heat. Yet again, the eyewitness account from Nebuchadnezzar himself complicates that. This wasn't the testimony of the victims. It was the astonishment of the persecutor. Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed. Others turn to quantum physics, exploring the possibility of alternate dimensions or energy fields. Could the 3 men have entered a temporary rift in space-time, one where natural laws were suspended? These theories, while highly speculative, attempt to reconcile the story with the ever-evolving possibilities of scientific discovery, but none offer anything close to conclusive. One lesser-known but intriguing hypothesis comes from studies on radiant heat and reflective materials. Could the clothing worn by the men have offered some temporary protection? Some types of ancient linen, soaked in certain oils or treated with mineral compounds, might offer brief resistance to flame, but not to the extent described in the text. Certainly not without damage, smoke, or at least discoloration. And certainly not under the death-dealing temperatures of a royal Babylonian furnace. Then there's the mystery of the 4th man. Eyewitnesses again, not believers, but skeptics, saw someone else walking among them. This figure, according to Nebuchadnezzar, looked like a son of the gods. Who or what was this? Scientists, unable to explain the fire, are even more baffled by this apparition. Was it a hallucination? A visual anomaly caused by the flickering flames and rising heat? Or something more? There have been similar moments in recent history that echo this anomaly. Survivors of fires, explosions, and life-threatening accidents often report feelings of someone being there, a protective presence, unseen but unmistakable. Could these be remnants of the same phenomenon? In 1945, 5 firefighters emerged unharmed from a warehouse explosion in New York. All claimed they should have died, and described being pushed out by an unseen force. In 2010, during the Chilean mining disaster, Several trapped miners reported visions of another man walking beside them, someone they never found after the rescue. Science labels these occurrences as stress-induced hallucinations or survival instinct projections. But are they? As we examine the fiery furnace through scientific eyes, the conclusions are murky. Every attempt at explanation collapses under the weight of one simple fact: the fire didn't behave like fire. The event either broke the laws of physics or revealed that those laws, as we know them, are incomplete. No material, no shield, no technology exists today that could replicate what the three men experienced. And no camera, drone, or sensor could explain what Nebuchadnezzar saw. In a world ruled by the measurable and the repeatable, the furnace remains a violent rejection of predictability. And maybe that's the point. Not to defy science, but to expose its limits. Not to mock reason, but to remind us that in the deepest crucibles, something unmeasurable still moves. Something that even fire cannot consume. The nature of fire is brutal and absolute. It consumes. It transforms. It leaves nothing untouched. Across all cultures, all sciences, and all recorded history, fire has obeyed a simple code. It devours anything not designed to resist it. And yet, in one moment, that code appears to have broken at the heart of an ancient Babylonian furnace, in the presence of three condemned men. To understand the magnitude of this disruption, we must first explore how fire truly works. Scientifically, fire is a rapid oxidation process. It requires fuel, oxygen, and heat, the fire triangle. Remove any one of these elements, and the flame dies. But introduce them all, and the result is violent transformation. Matter becomes energy. Molecules are split, vaporized, destroyed. The human body, composed mostly of water, can briefly resist low heat. But under intense conditions, our defenses are tragically thin. Skin blisters at 48 degrees Celsius, 118 degrees Fahrenheit. Nerve endings fail at 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Full combustion of human tissue begins between 300 degrees Celsius to 600 degrees Celsius, 572 degrees Fahrenheit to 1112 degrees Fahrenheit. The furnace described in Daniel chapter 3 was said to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. That was not a poetic flourish. In ancient Babylon, kilns could already reach temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius, 1,472 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to forge weapons and melt stone. The instruction to multiply the heat indicates an extraordinary, lethal effort, one designed not just to kill, but to humiliate. So how did 3 men survive? Some physicists have attempted to model the environment within such a furnace. Using computational fluid dynamics, it's possible to simulate airflow, temperature gradients, and radiant heat behavior. These simulations confirm what intuition already tells us. No one survives at the center of such conditions. Even in modern fireproof suits, protection only lasts minutes, and even then, not in direct flame. The radiation from the heat alone would cause internal burns, destroy the eyes, and collapse the lungs. But here's where the anomaly sharpens. Not only did the 3 survive, they walked, unbound, unharmed, clothing untouched. No soot, no burns, no signs of stress. The story doesn't depict a narrow escape. It describes total immunity. Could there have been a natural phenomenon at play? Some scientists theorize the existence of a sudden vacuum effect, perhaps a pocket of negative pressure that momentarily blocked combustion. Others propose exotic plasma shielding, invoking the speculative science of electromagnetic barriers capable of repelling thermal energy. Yet none of these have been observed in nature. No such shield has ever been created in a lab, let alone survived under primitive conditions. Then there's the matter of the ropes. The only thing that did burn were the cords used to tie the men. According to the text, those disintegrated instantly, while the garments remained intact. This is a curious detail. It suggests the fire was selective, targeting the binding instruments but sparing the bodies. Fire, however, doesn't select. It reacts to density, moisture, and material, but it does not discriminate morally or purposefully. Something else did. This selective combustion leads to a philosophical challenge. If the fire obeyed unnatural rules, was it still fire as we know it? Or had the very definition of fire been altered in that moment? Modern science depends on repeatability. If something cannot be reproduced under the same conditions, it is labeled an outlier or a mystery. The fiery furnace refuses to conform. Replication fails. Modeling collapses. The rules bend and vanish. So perhaps the story isn't about fire behaving differently, but about a new law momentarily taking its place. One ancient commentary describes the furnace not as a physical structure alone, but as a temple of testing. That phrasing may be more than metaphor. What if, within those flames, the natural laws we rely on were momentarily suspended, not erased but overwritten? Not by chaos, but by intention. In quantum mechanics, we know particles behave differently when observed. At the smallest scale, reality itself can shift based on awareness, measurement, and presence. Could a similar principle apply here on a divine scale? Could the presence of the fourth man have altered the physical laws inside the furnace? Created a pocket of divine physics where heat obeyed a higher authority? And if so, what does that say about the boundaries we take for granted? This chapter in Daniel doesn't just challenge thermodynamics, it challenges determinism. It opens a door, however briefly, to the idea that natural law is not sovereign. That under certain conditions at certain times, reality can be rewritten. In the end, the fire burned as commanded. But what it revealed was something that burns even brighter. A realm where laws kneel, and the impossible walks among men. Among all the elements of the fiery furnace story, none is as mysterious or as haunting as the appearance of the fourth man. When King Nebuchadnezzar looked into the blazing furnace, expecting death and destruction, what he saw instead was four figures walking unharmed, three bound men, and a fourth, described as like a son of the gods. This phrase is as cryptic as it is profound, and it has sparked centuries of debate among theologians, historians, and scientists alike. Who was this figure? What was its nature? And how did its presence transform the laws of fire itself? In the ancient Near East, the phrase son of the gods often referred to a divine being or a messenger from the divine realm. Some interpretations suggest this fourth figure was an angel sent to protect Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Others propose an even more radical theory, that this was a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ, what theologians call a theophany. If so, it would mean that God himself stepped into the furnace to shield the faithful, demonstrating divine power in the most dramatic way imaginable. But how do we understand such a presence through a modern lens? Skeptics argue that the fourth man could have been a hallucination or a collective misperception induced by stress, heat, and expectation. Heat haze, flickering flames, and the shock of the moment might have distorted Nebuchadnezzar's vision, creating an illusion of an extra figure. However, this explanation struggles to account for the vividness and emotional weight of the king's reaction. He was no friend of these men, he was their executioner. Why would he hallucinate a protective spirit? Such an occurrence suggests something more than mere illusion. Modern psychology acknowledges the power of shared hallucinations and the brain's capacity to create images during intense emotional moments. Yet, collective hallucinations among people not directly exposed to trauma are rare, and the king observed the scene from a distance in relative safety. This makes the psychological hypothesis less likely. From a scientific perspective, one could ask whether the fourth man might have been a person unknown to history, brave soldier or an undercover agent who entered the flames to protect the condemned. But this is immediately contradicted by the death of the guards who threw the men into the furnace, and by the fact that the fourth figure appeared like a son of the gods, an otherworldly description incompatible with any human explanation. Some speculative theories even invoke the idea of multidimensional beings, entities existing simultaneously in different planes of reality, who may have intervened to shield the men from harm. While this drifts into metaphysics, it underscores the sheer mystery surrounding this figure. The impact of this fourth man is not only symbolic but also functional. His presence, whatever it was, changes the dynamic inside the furnace. The fire becomes selective, the physical laws bend, and the impossible becomes reality. This points to an intervention that transcends natural cause and effect, suggesting an intentional suspension or rewriting of reality itself. This raises profound questions. Can the physical universe be altered by spiritual forces? Are miracles simply breaks in the fabric of natural law? Or are they signs of a deeper reality where divine presence coexists with the material world? And if such interventions are possible, what does that imply about human suffering, justice, and hope? The fourth man's presence challenges the idea that the universe is governed solely by impersonal forces. It hints at a cosmos where power, protection, and purpose come from beyond what we see, and where faith can invite a presence capable of confronting the fiercest fires. Ultimately, this enigmatic figure stands at the crossroads of science, theology, and mystery. He is a symbol of protection against destruction, a beacon of hope amid judgment, and the living proof that some forces refuse to be consumed even by fire. The blazing furnace of ancient Babylon might seem like a distant, almost mythic event, locked away in dusty scriptures and forgotten history. Yet the core mystery it represents, the confrontation with overwhelming danger, the triumph over destruction, and the inexplicable survival against all odds, resonates far beyond its original time and place. Today, countless individuals face their own fiery furnaces, challenges so intense they threaten to consume body, mind, and spirit. Modern life's furnaces may not be literal flames, but they are no less intense. They come as life-threatening illnesses, catastrophic accidents, financial ruin, social persecution, and inner battles with despair. In hospitals, disaster zones, and crisis centers, stories emerge that echo the ancient miracle, people surviving against the odds, sometimes attributing their endurance to a presence, a force, or an unexplainable protection. Firefighters who rush into burning buildings speak of moments when logic fails and instinct takes over. Some describe feeling an unseen companion guiding or shielding them. Survivors of plane crashes, explosions, or natural disasters recount sensations of calm amid chaos, whispers of comfort when all seemed lost. Science explains these experiences as neurochemical reactions, stress responses, or hallucinations, but the similarity across cultures and situations invites deeper reflection. Psychologists and neuroscientists study how the brain copes with trauma, revealing the immense power of the human mind to create protective illusions. Yet these explanations do not diminish the profound impact such experiences have on individuals. Many emerge from their trials transformed, carrying a renewed sense of purpose, hope, or faith. In the realm of medical science, miracles of survival sometimes defy explanation. Cases of spontaneous remission, unexpected recoveries, and inexplicable healing challenge current knowledge. Patients with grave prognoses sometimes recover completely, baffling doctors and researchers. Are these mere statistical anomalies or glimpses into the mysterious interplay between body, mind, and something beyond? The fiery furnace story reminds us that the boundary between natural and supernatural, science and faith, is often blurred. It invites us to consider that some forces, whether divine, psychological, or yet unknown, can intervene in the harshest circumstances. Technological advances have given humanity incredible tools to fight destruction. Fire-resistant materials, life-saving medicines, and disaster prediction systems. Yet, even with all this progress, the essence of the ancient furnace remains. No technology can guarantee immunity from suffering, nor can science fully explain the rare moments when hope and survival burst through the flames of despair. The story also resonates in social and political contexts. People persecuted for their beliefs, values, or identities often face metaphorical furnaces, hostility, imprisonment, discrimination. Their survival and resistance echo Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's defiance. Their stories challenge the world to reconsider justice, courage, and resilience. Moreover, the furnace motif extends to collective crises: climate change, pandemics, economic collapse. Humanity as a whole faces challenges that threaten to consume entire societies. The ancient story urges reflection. Can faith, courage, and unity help us walk through modern flames unburned? Can unseen forces, whether spiritual, social, or psychological, support humanity's survival? In every age, the fiery furnace is not just a test of physical endurance, but a crucible for the human spirit. It compels us to ask, what is the nature of the protection that stands against overwhelming heat? How do belief and reality intersect in the moments when all seems lost? The enduring power of this ancient narrative lies in its invitation to believe that even in the hottest flames, something greater may be walking with us, transforming what appears impossible into the possible. As we arrive at the end of this journey through fire, faith, and mystery, one truth emerges with clarity. Some phenomena remain beyond the grasp of human reason and scientific scrutiny. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the fiery furnace that did not consume them, stands as a monument to the limits of our understanding, a reminder that not everything can be dissected, measured, or fully explained. Throughout history, humanity has sought to explain the unknown. Science has unraveled mysteries from the vastness of space to the intricacies of the atom. Yet, when confronted with events like the fiery furnace, the empirical tools falter. The laws that govern heat and matter bend, if only momentarily, in the presence of a force that transcends natural order. This is not a failure of science, but an invitation to humility, to recognize that the universe might be larger, deeper, and more complex than our current paradigms allow, that there exist realms where divine intervention, miracles, or forces unknown to us operate beyond our detection and understanding. Philosophers have long debated the relationship between faith and reason, science and spirituality. The fiery furnace sits squarely at this intersection, challenging us to reconcile what can be tested with what must be believed. It asks, how do we respond when the impossible becomes reality? When natural law seems suspended, what framework do we use to interpret that experience? For many, the story is a testament to unwavering faith, the courage to stand firm, even when death seems certain, trusting in a power beyond human control. For others, it is a symbol of hope amid despair, proof that survival is sometimes granted against all odds. Yet, beyond belief or skepticism lies a profound reflection on human perception. Our senses and instruments, no matter how advanced, may capture only a fragment of reality. There may be dimensions, forces, or truths that exist beyond our reach. The fourth man in the furnace, the fire that did not burn, and the escape from death all point to an expanded reality where divine and natural coexist. This leads to a final, humbling question. If such mysteries exist, how many more lie hidden beyond the veil of human comprehension? How many forces, events, or moments slip past our understanding, quietly shaping our existence? The fiery furnace compels us to embrace uncertainty, not as a defeat, but as a gateway to wonder. It invites us to hold space for the miraculous, to respect the mysteries that stir our souls, and to acknowledge that some stories endure precisely because they elude explanation. As the flames die down in the ancient furnace, they leave behind more than ashes. They leave a question that burns still. What lies beyond the edge of human knowledge? And in that unknown, what truths await those willing to step into the fire of faith, courage, and mystery?